Hello. So, one of the first things any normie says to you when you tell them you ride a motorbike is it's dangerous and you will die. But my biggest concern is always not dying, because that's definitely going to happen at some point. It's actually making sure that you're living enough. So, something unexpected happened when I got into my motorcycle journey, and that's what I want to talk about in this video. That I sometimes see people talk about, but not often. So when you first get on a motorbike, it is a terrifying and impossible task. The controls are like wrestling an octopus. You've got to use all your limbs at different times, which is no good for someone like me with zero coordination. You've got to use balance, which is something else I don't have. So I'm a very clumsy person, so it took me a while to get the hang of it. So when you first start riding, the majority of your thought and effort goes into the exhausting task of not dying. Gradually over time though, it becomes like second nature. You tend to not have to think anymore, you can focus on the road and the potential hazards, and you relax into the actual process itself. The actual operating of the bike becomes almost like mind control. You achieve a perfect sync with the machine itself. The controls just seem to happen. It all becomes second nature and you don't really have to think about it anymore. You also come to terms with just how terrifying it is, because normally it's impossible to explain. The sheer sense of speed is beyond anything else. That all settles down though, and then you get to a place where your skill set's good enough you can handle the bike without having to think about it. Your mind is focused on the road and the potential hazards. And then you start to really appreciate the magic of it. And this is where it becomes like a Nirvana state. I first experienced this, I was on my training, and it was a beautiful autumn day. I think I'd just finished my Mod 1 and we were heading back to the training centre after it. It was a beautiful golden sunshine, the sun was low, the bike was just there's a sort of perfect harmony, a symphony of engineering with a bike. If it's all working perfectly, if everything's at the right temperature, it just seems to want to go. I had the leaves on the trees with the most beautiful colours, and we were going down a road that was like this long, smooth curves underneath trees with the golden dappled sunlight coming through it, and I just thought, wow, this is just absolute magic. The riding of the bike was no longer an effort. The maintaining balance and picking your line through the corners seemed to come very easily. And I just realised at that moment it was a perfect magical place to be. Now the philosopher Alan Watt talked about meditation a lot. And he had an interesting approach to it where he says you don't sit and do nothing and meditate. If you want to really meditate, you have to occupy your brain with a task. He suggested doing the dishes, but I think because of the way a bike operates, because of the danger involved and the sophistication of the actual task, I think this occupies the brain, and then off the back of that it frees up the mind, if that makes sense. So this usually happens when you've been on the bike a little while and you're just getting settled in and the bike's warmed up. And because you're so close to the engine and the engineering and you're part of it and you're using your whole body as well, you enter this meditative state. Weirdly, you start to feel really free. I don't know why, it just seems like you could just go anywhere in the world. Your mind also seems to enter a state of complete calm. Even although you're bombing down a country road at 60 mile an hour or more, your mind just seems to achieve like a nirvana calm state where you can appreciate the beauty of everything around you. You've got the rhythmic sound behind you. There's a wave of torque pulling you towards the horizon. And you also notice nature in a way that you might not certainly not in a car, maybe if you were walking, but it's a sort of combination of the wind, the sound, the engine, the road unfurling in front of you, the wave of torque carrying you. You just get into a mental state that I just feel like is a nirvana. It's like a complete bliss. So a lot of people ride bikes because they're chasing the buzz of the adrenaline, and that is great. It feels fantastic. At first it's terrifying. 30 mile an hour feels like 150, but gradually over time you get used to it. And then when your mind is used to this sensation of speed, it seems to slow it down. And that's when the meditative state comes in. You're using your whole body, the balance, everything. And this is when the combination of thinking, calmness, mental clarity comes over you. This seems to happen often as well, and there's moments that I just consider absolutely perfect, and I'll just talk about one of them. I was riding across the Peak District, which is quite close to where I live, and I'd been going up a road, so I couldn't really see much. It was a beautiful country road passing through farms, and then I just missed a really big storm, so the road was kind of wet. But it was doing that thing where the sun started breaking through the storm and the dark clouds were starting to dissipate. As I reached the crest of the hill, the entire valley unfurled in front of me, and golden sunlight broke through the clouds and started sending shafts of light down onto the farmland below. My bike was in a perfect place, running really well. Everything was just perfect. The sound was perfect. It was so calm. I think there was no traffic either. I wasn't being held up by vans or caravans or anything like that. And I just had this road in front of me, and the bike was just dragging me into this beautiful golden valley of sunlight and beautiful shades of green, and it was just absolutely beautiful. So when people say to you, "Oh, you're going to die on that thing," to get close to heaven, I think you have to get that sort of sensation. You start to feel like your own mortality, and it maybe gives you an appreciation of just how beautiful the world actually is. And that's why I'll pretty much be riding until I'm very old. I'm going to be buried with my bike like a pharaoh, I think. This actual state it's almost impossible to describe. It is something that I think everyone should try and experience at some point in their life. It's completely magical, and that's why motorbikes become such an addiction to people. I've never been able to experience that sensation anywhere else with anything else. It's a very weird mix of skill, terror, calmness, meditation, beauty, and magic. There is a complete magic involved to it. So if you're ever doubting, should I ride a motorbike, might I die? If you want to feel Nirvana, if you want to come close to touching heaven, this is how you do it. And also as well, it does absolute wonders for mental health. You can be having one of the worst days of your life. You get on that bike, full tank of fuel, heat up that engine and just blast across 100 miles of countryside, and you will feel like a different person after it. Yeah, it's not going to fix your life problems, but when you get back, it'll feel like you've meditated for 2 days in the mountains. Absolutely incredible. And it's not something that's often talked about, but I just wanted to mention it here. It took me by surprise when I started riding bikes. It came out when I had mastery of the controls and the process, so I wasn't in a panic or in terror the entire time. And it just washed over me that day when I was heading back from a Mod 1, and that's what I did wonder at the time if it was just a one-off because it was high from passing the Mod 1, but it wasn't. It comes often. Pretty much any time you're out on the bike, you'll just have these absolutely magical moments, and I think that's what every biker is chasing all the time. Thanks for watching the video. Like and subscribe. There's plenty more to come. I'm going to keep doing a nice variety of videos. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.